Welcome to the Fantasy Football Forge Week 18 wide receiver rankings. And rankings are very fluid this week. There's a lot of announcements yet to be had. There will be speculation that we'll probably end up having to do at the end of the day about how teams are going to go about their players' usage this week. And so, right off the bat, over here in this column, this is the team name of these individual players. Baltimore, San Fran, Cleveland really aren't playing for anything, so as far as their starters go, I am having them as if they're sitting. The only one here out of this bunch that I'm currently not ranking, Elijah Moore, yeah, he very well might be on the field some, but also not overly excited about that if it's like DTR at the quarterback, so I'm not too concerned about getting him ranked right off the bat. But here is currently the list of players that are not ranked on the screen. And as you can see, quite a few big names like T. Higgins, Zay Flowers, of course. What do we got? There's one I want to point out here. Christian Kirk just brought up off of the IR. He's on the it can start to practice list now. So that is a name to keep an eye on this week as Jacksonville will be playing in a big game for them. And there's the rest of that list. Also, over on the far right, you can see, of course, the opponent, the defense that they will be playing up against. And I just looked at the most extreme good matchups, bad matchups. And so that's what's highlighted. Obviously, red, orange, and yellow, which you can all see on the screen right now, are going to be very bad, poor, below average types of matchups. And then I believe I have blue and green. Yes, there we go. Blue is very good, elite matchup. Green, very good. If there's a paler green, it'd be above average. So I think you get the main idea there. I will have these rankings will be up on my website, as always, www.theFFforge.com. So go and check them out there. I will also be live for you souls who are playing this week. 2 hours prior to kickoff on Saturday would be the plan. And dependent on if there's anybody in there or not, I will also go live 1 to 2 hours prior to kickoff on Sunday. So let's review how I did for my final week of my DFS picks. I'm not going to make any for week 18. It's such a weird week. I'd rather, avoid betting on it, if anything else. As well as my loves and my fades, which I will have this week. Probably won't have a video to recap those, but you can always keep tally on your own if you're that curious. As far as my DFS buys for the wide receiver position, DJ Shark at $3,600 last week, I thought was worth a shot at. He did have a couple of chances, just didn't come together, and so he did not have a good week. And then I said that I was going to be taking a shot on Nico Collins at $7,200 if CJ Stroud returned. CJ Stroud did return. Nico Collins had a wide receiver 22 week for full PPR purposes, so solid week there. And as a contrarian play, Amari Cooper at $7,200 did not end up playing, so that obviously didn't matter. As far as my loves, I gave you Nico Collins, Terry McLaurin, Romeo Doubs. Nico Collins finished as wide receiver 26 and half PPR. Terry McLaurin, wide receiver 20. So solid there. You want more from a love than just being a borderline or barely a wide receiver 2. But nonetheless, they did all right for you. Romeo Doubs, on the other hand, did not do very good. Finished as the wide receiver 64. However, at the time of the rankings, at the time of giving him a love, I did think that he was going to be the only wide receiver playing, but Jaden Reed did end up getting healthy enough to come back for that game, so I had moved Romeo Doubs down in my rankings a little bit. Obviously, didn't have him as low as wide receiver 64 or anything. And for my fades, it did good here. Stephon Diggs, T. Higgins, Garrett Wilson, faded them all. Finished as wide receivers 54, 78, 41 as a group. So there we go. Let's get on to the week 18 wide receiver rankings. All right, so on the screen we have the first tier of wide receivers showing my top 5 wide receivers. As a reminder, once again, these rankings will be flexible, extremely flexible this week, depending on the kind of news that comes out from organizations and what their plans are. And I'll be trying to get as good of an idea as possible about what kind of usage these guys will be playing. So this first tier, pretty simple. All these teams are going to be playing here. CeeDee Lamb, Amon-Ra St. Brown, A.J. Brown, Tyreek Hill, Justin Jefferson. I think another thing to remember this week is that all teams, whether they're in it or not, are going to be susceptible to pulling guys at some point in the games, depending on if they have a good enough lead, if they're trailing at some point. Not all of them are fighting for, tooth and nail to get into the playoffs. So it's not the end of their day if they end up giving up a big lead that they start sitting guys for, or, in the reverse, just not trying to come back from a big enough deficit because of just wanting to stay healthy. So because of that, too, I don't want to overvalue trying to guesstimate exactly what's going to happen this week as far as the amount of usage for players, except for in scenarios where we can do a decent job of that. And one risk that I'm willing to take this early on in the week is going to come down to Kansas City. So these teams in yellow here are teams that I dictated that, we don't know yet exactly what their plan is, but LA almost certainly will be sitting these guys. They should probably be in red, but I'll wait to hear a little bit more on that. I think best case scenario here for the Rams would just be that these guys get partial usage, maybe come out for the first drive or two against San Francisco. I do believe they have something small that they could fight for in the playoffs, if I recall correctly. Like 6th or 7th seed type of fight is on the line for them, so a little something. But it depends how important they find that to be. As far as this tier goes, it starts off with Michael Pittman at wide receiver 6, followed by Mike Evans in a tougher matchup once again. You can see the slight difference here from orange to the yellow. And, of course, CeeDee Lamb's in a fantastic matchup up there. Rashee Rice, this would be a very good matchup here going up against the Los Angeles Chargers. DK Metcalf, DJ Moore, Nico Collins, also a poor matchup there. But then for Rashee Rice, I'm thinking for Kansas City, if I'm them, I don't feel comfortable about my offense. Like, I want to get everybody except for, Isaiah Pacheco out there. I feel comfortable with the run game, and I don't want to risk further injury to him. He's been a little bit banged up as of recent anyways. So I'd be sitting Isaiah Pacheco. But this offense, I'd at least get out there for the first half, I think, myself. So we'll see what they decide to do. I do think that at least for the first drive, we'll see their starters in there, once again, outside of maybe Pacheco. And defense might be more willing to sit guys like a L'Jarius Sneed, etc. in this matchup. But I want to help. I don't think I'm winning a Super Bowl right now with where the offense is at if I'm Kansas City. So I want another week to try to figure things out more. And so we'll see. Travis Kelce also probably highly likely to sit in that scenario just due to his age and everything. I could see that. And then at that point, it's like, well, are you really going to be able to figure things out when you're missing 1.5 of your key pieces to your offense this year? I don't know. Maybe not. So we'll see. We'll see. Hopefully we can get a clear picture before the end of the week here. But for now, I just kind of move these guys to the bottom of the tiers where I would just normally have had them ranked. And if Rashee Rice is in there for half of a game, I'm probably starting him over, quite a few people. Maybe not quite as high as I have him currently. But just waiting to hear more news from these teams, because who knows what they're thinking exactly. Then for my next tier here is wide receivers 13 through 19. Starts off with Chris Olave. My first fade of the week going up against Atlanta. Very, very tough matchup. They keep wide receivers to their floors, and Chris Olave is just kind of like a high floor guy. So you combine that, and I'm really expecting no chance at a ceiling from Chris Olave this week. But maybe he can maintain that floor at the very least. And, of course, there should be some opportunities to do something. Then Stephon Diggs here, it's just been really, really bad as of late. So I might have him too highly ranked here, to be quite frank. I should probably have him, for now at least, back at wide receiver 16. Let's do that. Then Devontae Adams going up against Denver. I expect them to play these guys up until a certain point. Maybe they have contract goals that they want to meet in order to make an extra $100,000. I mean, there's incentives for these guys to play. A lot of times throughout the week, we'll hear so-and-so's, not within range to get any incentives, or so-and-so needs another 100 yards, and they'll make $50K, whatever the case. So, once again, try to do our best in keeping up with that kind of information as far as that impacting the rankings. Then Jamar Chase going up against Cleveland, but Cleveland's defense is, probably going to be sitting a lot of their guys. They're locked in to their spot in the playoffs, so they're really not playing for anything as far as that goes this week. So Jamar Chase, I think I'm less afraid of than I normally would be against that Cleveland defense. Cooper Kupp, same thing as Puka Nacua here. I mean, he might not even be playing. We'll see. I just moved him back to if he is starting the game and we think that there's a half of a game in him, I might be willing to play him up around this highly. Then Calvin Ridley in at wide receiver 18 and George Pickens to finish that off with the connection that we've been seeing with him and Mason Rudolph, who has been named the starter as far as last I saw. I also saw Kenny Pickett is practicing, so I don't know if that ended up being official or not as far as Mason Rudolph's announcement, but last I heard that was the official announcement as to the starter, regardless of Kenny Pickett's health. Then Garrett Wilson's another fade for me this week, just has to do with the quarterback that he's got, and New York Jets, New England, last game of the season with nothing on the line. It just doesn't sound like a game where I'm expecting a whole lot to happen from. So I don't really like that matchup, and I'd be looking to go elsewhere if possible. Chris Godwin going up against Carolina, similar to Chris Olave here, like it's just not a great matchup. Not a high upside matchup, and for the most part on the season, he hasn't been a high upside player. As of late, he has had a little bit of juice to him, and that's what's gotten him to be ranked this highly, because of that juice that he's had. Then DeAndre Hopkins is a love for me going up against Jacksonville. It's a fine, solid matchup. I don't know. It just feels this is a gut call. Like, there's nothing super specific about this argument for DeAndre Hopkins, just looking down at the list around the guys around this area, because I don't like to give you loves up here for the most part if I can avoid it. He stuck out to me as somebody that, like, hey, that looks good to me. So I like DeAndre Hopkins there. And by the way, over on the way left, really announcing the slate, this is my EV equalized value score rating. This is like average fantasy points per week, except it takes consistency into account, and it is highly doctored up. It is based on just the players that I am ranking, by the way. A couple that are not ranked, you might have seen that number over there too, that I decided to take out of the rankings a little bit late. But regardless, this is just based on these players, so if anybody was injured on the season, they're taken out of the equation here for this number. But yeah, that's just kind of helped me to do the rankings and gives you an idea to how they performed on the season and consistency-wise as well. Brandon Cooks going up against Washington, Adam Thielen going against Tampa Bay. Both solid matchups that boost him up here a little bit in the rankings in a funky week where who knows what's going to happen. Tyler Lockett, Terry McLaurin in a tougher matchup against Dallas. Otherwise, would have liked him, but a little risky there. And also, I believe he's probably going to have Sam Howell. Currently thinking he's going to have Sam Howell in at quarterback again too, which doesn't make me less optimistic for Terry McLaurin. But then Jordan Addison, wide receiver 27 here, another love of mine because I'm expecting Nick Mullins to be the quarterback there, who I think is the best quarterback for Jordan Addison outside of Kirk Cousins on that team. And if that is the case, then I am loving Jordan Addison against Detroit. Solid enough matchup, though it didn't make the cut for being a really good matchup. Then we've got Jacoby Myers, Demarcus Robinson, Deontay Johnson, Drake London in a tougher matchup. We just saw them shut out Mike Evans last week, kind of similar type of player. Gabe Davis, Jackson Smith and Jigba, Romeo Dobbs, Darius Slayton in a really good matchup. There's somebody you could target definitely in DFS type of plays. Any of those New York Giants receivers that you like the best. Then just a big tier here that I wanted to include in the video. Not really going to talk about these guys too much, but DJ Chark Jr., once again, solid matchup here against Tampa Bay. Michael Wilson's going to be a love of mine this week going up against Seattle. We finally saw a bit of a connection between himself and Kyler Murray last week, and I'm expecting that to quite potentially continue, where Arizona and Seattle are going to be, I think, playing each other kind of hard. They don't like each other. Then we've got Rashid Shaheed going up against Atlanta. Not a great matchup, so that concerns me. Wan'Dale Robinson, good matchup. That's positive. Josh Downs, Rashad Bateman. So I think Rashad Bateman will probably still be in this game, and I like Tyler Huntley. So I do think that Rashad Bateman, Nelson Aguilar are worthy plays. If you're sitting there, you got guys who you think are only going to play half of a game. You don't want to mess with that. Take a shot on some of these Baltimore wide receivers who are probably going to be playing for the entirety of the game or for a lot of it, especially Nelson Aguilar. He's going to have to be out there for the entirety of the game. No doubt they can't sit 4 wide receivers and put out a formidable lineup. So Yep, just wanted to make sure to point those guys out. One who I have lower would be, the Los Angeles, Demarcus Robinson right here. I don't know how good I feel about him with their backup quarterback situation, but if Stafford's going to be in there to start the game, if they want to take a shot at winning this game, then I'll like him a little bit more. If that's not going to be the case, I'll probably drop him down a little bit. Let's see. That's going to be about it. You can see a bunch of tough matchups down here. Justin Watson here, another guy who you could take a shot on. He should be out there a whole lot in this game, at the very least in like the second half. Less confident about that and less confident about the backup quarterback situation as well in that situation, but it is a good matchup for him. So there are the wide receivers. Running backs video will come out tomorrow. Thank you very, very much for a successful season, and let's just get right on out of here, let you get back onto your day. And once again, rankings will be up on the website. It's a living sheet right now, that's for sure, as information comes in. So we'll just keep an eye on things and alter the rankings as we learn more.